Yo! What up, Thrashers? Today's video is a long one coming. This is the how to thrash like Gary Holt video. Expect a redo of my Dave Mustaine stuff coming soon, but today I figured we gotta give one of the other godfathers of thrash, one of the other goats, their own video. So this is a couple of riff examples that I've found of some unique playing techniques that Gary uses in his rhythm guitar. Maybe I'll touch on a couple lead things at the end, but really Gary's a more fantastic rhythm player than anything. His riffs are fantastic, and I'm going to tackle some of the unique Gary-isms, so hopefully you can listen with a keener ear and pick them out in any songs you hear them in, and enjoy all of his stuff all the more, especially with their new record coming out on, I think, the 20th of March, they said. So, without further ado, let's get it out of the way. Now, this first thing I'm touching on is waltz picking, as Gary likes to coin it. And it basically means that Gary doesn't love to do strict downstrokes. Actually, I'll pan the camera down for this one. So, he does, for recording's sake, and sometimes for certain riffs he has to, but a keen example that he demonstrated in a interview in a video. Actually, I think this was the Lessons in Guitar Violence DVD thing he did. He demonstrated waltz picking in the song Verbal Razors during the verse riffs. So normally, most guitar players, when playing this riff, might do all downstrokes. But what Gary does is a down, up, down, down. And that's a pattern he likes to repeat to give his right hand a bit of a break from doing pure down. So it would be... See that? Down, up, down, 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 up, down, down. So he starts those riffs, and it makes it way, way more calmed down in the right hand, and it gives you more time to bang your head and worry less about your strict Hetfieldian for that riff. And that's an ingenious way of sneaking in little things to help you. Along with, of course, like any players do to give the right hand a rest. Some of those things they throw in there, some of those, you know. Anywho, that's the first and least consequential thing. The next is his dissonant intervals. Gary is a huge fan of twisting up his fingers in extremely peculiar ways to give intervals that aren't just strict fourths or fifths. And I think I have a couple examples here, but one of the most prominent examples that I can think of is the opening riff in Fabulous Disaster. And what's happening here is Gary starts off with a power chord on the second fret, and he brings the pinky in, making it into a major third looking shape here, and then a fourth by bringing over his ring finger like that, and then a tritone when moving his middle finger. So the movement all together super, super metal and extremely unique. Another example from the same record is in Toxic Waltz, which again is another video I'm going to redo because I didn't include this. I didn't even notice it. During the everybody's doing the Toxic Waltz, I guess like you call it, what, the pre-chorus or the hook, whatever you want to call it, most people will play that riff as follows. Something like that. But that's incorrect. The way Gary does it, with his sneaky dissonant intervals, so he does a fourth into a power chord, and then a tritone, walk down, which is sick. But Lee Altus doesn't play it that way, and he plays it the way most people play it, and that kind of works together. They give each other space, and I like that. It really fluffs out their live sound. The last example I could give of a good example of this, just dissonant intervals and Gary being obsessed with tritones and the like, is the main riffage in Tempo of the Damned. You have that opening bit. Where it's sliding from power chords to tritones. And another secret thing is that when they're playing the main riff, one of them is hitting 6, I'm pretty sure it's Gary, and Rick is actually hitting 3. So the entire time they have this interval going on, this minor third. So that's just droning the whole time, and it makes for a very, very, very evil sounding song. And I love that. Another thing that Gary does more often than other players is using his open strings and hammering them on to nowhere, basically. So what I mean is, a pretty good example would be the main riff in Iconoclasm. He has open A's and D's, and then hammers on, actually I think it's open A, D, and G, and he does a full extended power chord on the first fret on all the strings. Right? And then that main riff, it's all open A and D hammer, and then open E and A. Right? Or I Am Abomination, again, open A and D hammers. I gotta remember what it goes like. How does it go? Man, this always happens to me. I always get brain fog on going through... I'll give you another example while my brain tries to remember that riff. And Then There Were None is the first example of this happening. So we'll do a hammer on, but keeping the pinky here for the first one, and then a full pull off for those. So that's fantastic. That blows me out of the water. How does And Then There Were None go? Not And Then There Were None. I Am Abomination. That's the other example I'm thinking of. That's it. It goes open A and D onto another fourth interval on the first fret. Man, that song kicks so much ass. Surprised I forgot it. But that's another example. The open string, kind of a similar thing to Iconoclast. In fact, the exact same sort of thing. But it's awesome. It's great. And Gary's amazing at it. Another thing is Phrygian dominant. This is one thing that I think Gary shows his inspiration for in spades. Because he loved Ritchie Blackmore. He loved Yngwie. He was a really, really big... that's where all of his lead guitar stuff is centered around, kind of cop Yngwie licks, doing little Yngwie Pellapoint stuff. But it comes up in the riffs he writes, a lot of Phrygian dominant stuff. A good example that's still in D would probably be in Iconoclasm again. That one bit where they have the... that little bit right there. Right? And it's harmonized, I think, too. Something like that. But it's great. Or going back to standard tuning, Pleasures of the Flesh. It's a great thing, too. Or I'm pretty sure, I don't know it off the top of my head, it's been a minute since I played it, but I think in Piranha and other tunes off the first record, there's little classical bits in there. If you watch the Gary Holt solo video that he did in like 85, I think it was at the Dynamo, when they were with Slayer and Venom, or maybe I'm thinking of some other tour, but he's doing a piece... I forget what it is. It's in like the key of... It's sort of like a D major. With the pedal point thing, I mean, he's a really classically influenced guy. All of his instrumental stuff, like No Love or 30 Seconds, they're all really classically influenced. And having the classical vocabulary with Phrygian dominant, loving Yngwie and all that, he's able to throw that into his riffs. And he does that more than any of the other bands. He still has his share of bluesy stuff, you know, all that stuff in there, but throwing that Phrygian dominant in there really sets him out apart and kind of carves out his own signature sound that he puts out there. Some other good examples of stuff that he does is legato in his really, really fast riffs. And these are both going to be in D, so back down tune to D we go. It happens early on, but I think even more so later he does a lot of legato helping him. Scar Spangled Banner is probably the best example of his most legato heavy tune. That thing. And I just really mean pull-offs, but, you know, there's the other riff I'm coming up in a second also has a lot of legato. But those really crazy, twisty, turny, pulling off to the open strings. Really crazy. And if you want a little tidbit of a band that was very inspired by that style of riffage, you should check out Hades, spelled Hyades. I think they're Italian. And I don't remember which riff it was on their, I think it was their second record, the one with the surfing weird web-toed dude. But I think it was Wop Still Thrash. I think that one was the one where it has a similar sort of riff to that. Exodus's influence is felt everywhere. The other riff that has a lot of legato is Persona Non Grata. Now I know with my right hand it looks like I'm picking all of that, but really the pattern is down, hammer, down, up, down, pull off, I think. And you can legato more of it. You can legato the whole thing. But, or pick all of it. You can pick as much of it as you want, but Gary throws in a little bit of legato there to give his right hand a bit of a break and give himself some reset points for when he's switching strings, which is essential for a riff that's as complicated and difficult as that one. And lastly, touching on a little bit of his lead guitar stuff, this kind of goes back to the Phrygian dominant phrasing and the Yngwie sort of stuff in his riffs. He was definitely not a stranger to major sounding tonalities, because if you're playing in Phrygian dominant, E Phrygian dominant, it has that major interval. Two majors right next to each other. So you will see that when Gary is playing pentatonic stuff, doing all that stuff, he will go up to the major third interval. That's what Gary loves to do. Like Dave Mustaine would probably do a... But Gary Holt... You know, he'll throw in that kind of dominant sounding pentatonic almost. And then, of course, he'll do the little Yngwie shred runs and his little pedal point licks and stuff like that, and all of the solos early on. You hear a load of that, and a diminished sounding. He has, like, again, his music theory knowledge isn't all-encompassing, but he knows a couple of ideas when it comes to making those diminished sounds. He'll do diminished arpeggios and stuff like that, and he'll do a bunch of, like, crazy whammy bar stuff. Lee Altus is the same way, too. But, just throw that little lead guitar tidbit in there. When I want to cover more Gary lead stuff, a day will come for that. But that's about all I want to talk to you about today. So I hope this was a bit helpful, and I hope it gave you some more appreciation for Gary and allowed your own vocabulary for writing and creating riffs to expand and have a couple of new ways of looking at the instrument and constructing really crushing riffs without just being Mr. you know, eighth note down chugs with power chords. Even that's a Gary Holtism, the pull-offs to the opens or the hammer-ons from the opens. Throw that stuff in there. It'll make your stuff way more interesting. It really will set you apart from other thrashers who just listen to Metallica. No knock on them. Metallica's cool, you know. But let's mix it up a bit. Anyways, enough yapping on. If you like the video, like it. Leave comments suggesting what other topics you'd like to see covered in the future. Look forward to my other uploads, and stay tuned by subscribing. And listen to metal, play metal, be metal, take a guitar pick. See you in the next one. Peace.